Okay, so let's talk about my pregnancy weeks 1 to 8. So I found out 4 weeks and 3 days. Didn't really have any side effects or anything until about 6 weeks. Around 6 weeks, I started feeling nauseous, and I found that if I had an empty stomach, I'd feel nauseous. If I had too full of a stomach, I felt nauseous. If I smelled certain smells, I was nauseous. And I didn't actually start vomiting or anything until a little bit later, but just a constant nausea, just always feeling nauseous from about 6 weeks on. It was sort of funny because I did have a family trip right around the 6-week mark. I just went for a little weekend road trip. So I had my purse full of crackers, and I was just kind of like, okay, this is rough. This is rough. And it was funny because normally I'd have drinks and everything like that. I wasn't drinking. Luckily, I don't think anybody noticed. Like, none of my family noticed, which was nice. As soon as I found out, I had already been taking prenatals because my doctor told me if I was trying to start taking them, that way, if I did get pregnant in the first couple of weeks without knowing it, the baby would still be getting proper nutrients. So I was regularly taking the prenatal vitamins. I cut out caffeine completely, tea, coffee. I didn't drink a lot of caffeine. I think the only caffeine I really got is every once in a while I'd go to TV's and have French vanilla. So it wasn't a huge deal for me. Sushi and deli meats were a lot harder for me to cut out. The caffeine is a personal choice. It is safe to have, I believe it's up to 2 cups of coffee. Don't quote me on that. But it is safe to have some caffeine. It's just, I didn't drink a lot, so I didn't see the point in me really continuing to do so. Like, for example, now if I really am craving some pop or soda, I'll either get like a fruit flavored one, or if I really want like a dark colored, like I love Pepsi, so if I really want something like that, I will make sure I go and buy the caffeine free version. Just that's my own personal choice. It's not something you have to do, but that's what I have chosen to do. I did start exercising at least half an hour every day, cardio, and starting to kind of build up my back muscles and things like that as well, in the hopes of making labor a little easier. Around 8 weeks is when I started getting that I was vomiting, and there was no real pattern to it. At first, it wasn't at a specific time of the day. Some days I'd be really sick in the morning and then fine in the evening. The next day I'd be okay all day, and then the third day I'd be okay in the morning, and about 12:31 I'd start feeling sick and I'd feel nauseous for the rest of the day. I actually started carrying around what I called my pregnancy puke party bag. And I went to my Zehrs and they had bags for coffee, like to put your ground coffee in, and I grabbed a couple of those because they were waxy, so they were it was almost like a paper bag, it was almost like a plastic bag. So I had a couple of those. I had a small thing of mouthwash, those little brush-em things to brush your teeth, gum, crackers, and I always had that with me because I take the bus to and from work every day. Everywhere I go, I either walk or bus it. So some of those bus rides were very hard. I remember an extremely unfortunate time, probably right around 8 weeks, where I was getting off the bus and I just felt like I was going to be sick, so I ran and hid behind a bus shelter, and I had about 6 people standing there waiting for a different bus, and they all just looking at me. It was super embarrassing. Nobody asked if I was okay. Nobody. Not one person. So I just kind of went, I'm pregnant, I'm not drunk or anything, I'm pregnant. But honestly, from weeks 1 to 6 weren't so bad. A little tired, but that was about it. Obviously, weeks 1 and 2, there's nothing happening. So it was really around week 6 when symptoms started really picking up for me. Again, really tired. I did have a slight increase in urination, I will say that. The exhaustion. I did start to have really tender breasts. Like, it honestly just felt like I was getting my period. Like, just that kind of tender breast, but it was every day. 4 weeks. 4 weeks on end. Just every day for weeks and weeks and weeks. So how did I get through? I got through, luckily my husband was super supportive, and he always made sure there was soup and crackers here, and I appreciated that greatly. Just taking the time to rest, making sure if I did get sick many times in a day, I would have a little bit of Powerade or Gatorade or something like that. Like, I wouldn't drink a whole bottle. I just had one of those big 710 milliliter bottles in the fridge constantly, and I would just pour a little like juice glass of it if I'd been sick a lot in a day, and I found that did help. I also found that keeping my stomach with at least a little bit of food in it did help. I noticed that, especially kind of when I got a little further along, anytime my stomach would get empty, that's when I would get sick, or that's when I would vomit or start to feel nauseous. So if I always had crackers, and if I was eating every couple of hours, be it just a couple of crackers, an apple, anything, something like that, that would help me immensely, and that helped me kind of get through it. So for me, 6 to 8 were the start of, oh, this is not an exaggeration. Now, I have a very close friend who actually just gave birth, and her first trimester was a breeze. Like, she was tired and that was it. And on the other end of the spectrum, I have a friend who, she was actually hospitalized for a bit because of how dehydrated she was getting because of how often she was sick. So it really does range, and what it was like for me will probably be very different than what it is for you. But that's my experience from weeks 1 to 8. We're almost done first trimester here. No cravings or anything yet like that, but I did have some aversions to eggs specifically. I love eggs, but I could not eat eggs for the life of me. The smell of them grossed me out, and that has continued. I had my first egg since week 6 last week, I believe. So that has been interesting. But that's weeks 1 to 8, and we'll see you in the next video for weeks 9 to 14.